Hello to all of you, friends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button before starting the video. Enjoy the show. In our video today, we will tell you about Mayans. Thank you for accompanying us on this mysterious expedition and contacting the dark points of history together. Let's get started. AD 1. The artifacts left behind by the long-established Mayan civilization, which lived its golden age for 1,000 years, can be seen all over present-day Central America. The term Maya refers to a modern people living in different regions and their ancestors who gave life to an ancient civilization spread throughout Central America. The Maya civilization experienced its golden age in the first millennium AD. Structures left over from this ancient civilization can be found today in different parts of Central America. The Maya civilization never existed as a single state. On the contrary, it consisted of cities ruled by kings and states built around these cities. Sometimes, a strong Mayan state would dominate a weaker state and force them to pay tribute and provide labor. Origins. Nomadic hunter-gatherers have existed in Central America for thousands of years, during the period referred to by archaeologists as pre-classic, 1800 BC, 250 AD, these nomadic communities began to plant corn and build permanent villages. This situation led to the emergence of early Mayan cities. Michael Coe, a professor of anthropology at Yale University, said in his book, The Mayans, Farming, which is seen in densely populated villages, appeared in the pre-classical period, he states. According to Coe, farming became more effective during this period, one of the reasons for which was the breeding of more productive corn species, and even, perhaps more importantly, the discovery of the nixtamalization process. In this process, corn was soaked in lemon or something similar and cooked, thus, the nutritional value of corn was greatly increased. Thus, zucchini, beans, chili peppers and cassava, which were already used by the Mayans, were also added to corn. During these periods, the Mayans were most likely under the influence of the Olmec civilization in their west. In fact, Coe thinks that the Olmec people, who lived in the states of Veracruz and Tabasco in present-day Mexico, may have been the main inventors of the famous long-counting calendar of the Mayans. However, a ceremonial site dating back to 1000 BC discovered in Cebol, an ancient Mayan settlement, is believed to show that the relationship between the Mayans and the Olmecs was much more complicated than predicted. December. The fact that the ceremony site in question is 200 years older than the sites built by the Olmecs may indicate that the Olmecs were not actually inspired by the Mayans. An earthenware incense container made in the image of the Mayan god Chak. Archaeologists have revealed that the early Mayan cities were the products of careful planning. Nixtamalization, located in the city of Petén, Guatemala today, demonstrates the existence of urban planning by incorporating pyramids, temples and different structures designed with a grid system. The city of Nixtamalization flourished between 600 to 300 BC. Mayan calendar. The Maya writing system consisted of symbols called glyphs, which correspond to words and sounds. This writing system soon found its place in buildings, obelisks, architectural works and books called codex. The Mayan calendar was a complex system. 1,700 years ago, speakers of the Pre-Chicholan language, the ancestor of the three Mayan languages still spoken today, developed a calendar consisting of 18 months of 20 days and an extra 5 days, said Professor Weldon Lamb of New Mexico State University in his work, The Mayan Calendar, a Book of Months. He states. This system also housed what scientists call a long count calendar, a calendar that can measure time from one day to millions of years using different units. The 144,000-day cycle of the calendar, that is, almost 400 years, was called Baktun. The Mayans believed that 13 Baktun coincided with a complete cycle of creation. In fact, the belief that the end of the world will come on December 21, 2012 is also 13. Baktun had appeared because it had expired on that date. But, contrary to this mistaken belief, the long count calendar did not announce that the end of the world would come in 2012. Walter Witchy, an archaeologist and Maya expert from Longwood University, said, the Mayans had several units that they rarely used to measure time periods longer than the Baktun. Thanks to these units, they could measure time periods of millions of years, he states. The existence of units corresponding to millions of years, the Mayans, the Apocalypse 13. It shows that they don't have the belief that it will break in Bak. According to Associate Professor Megan Puramaki-Brown of the online Athabasca University in Canada, the Mayan calendar is similar to modern calendars in many ways. Calendars with several cycles, for example, the Gregorian calendar, in which the months are measured by the moon, the year by the sun, and the linear year calculation, for example, 2020, 2021, 2022, would have been familiar to the ancient Maya, Puramaki-Brown said. When you understand the logic and mechanics behind these systems, you don't find the similarities between them so surprising. December. After all, the Gregorian calendar and the long count calendar are based on the same observable natural phenomena. He says. The bright age of the Mayan civilization. According to Ko, the ancient Mayans lived their golden age between 250 and 900 AD. During this time period, which archaeologists call the classical period, a large number of Mayan cities developed in Central America. According to Ko, the intellectual and artistic level reached by the Mayans at that time had no analogues in the New World, while there were only a few examples in Europe. A populous population, a thriving economy and widespread trade were characteristic features of the classical period, Ko notes, adding that wars were also very common during this period. The city of Teotihuacan, located 50 kilometers northwest of modern Mexico City, is located on the 15th. It was the largest city in the Western Hemisphere a century ago and had a great influence on the Mayan civilization. Inscriptions found in the Mayan city of Tikal, located in modern-day Guatemala, prove the influence of Teotihuacan on the Maya. According to the book, Tikal, An Illustrated History of the Mayan Capital, by art historian John Montgomery, the inscriptions mention that Siyaj Kak, an early Maya ruler who is believed to be from Tikal, took the throne on September 13, 379. He wore feathers and shells identified with Teotihuacan and carried an atlotl, spear launcher. An obelisk discovered at El Aquiatl, a Mayan settlement near Tikal, also supports the idea that Tikal was controlled or influenced by Teotihuacan for a period when the king of Teotihuacan overthrew the Tikal leader and replaced him with one of his nationals. Each of the cities located in different parts of the Mayan world has wonders that distinguish them from others. Tikal, for example, is famous for its pyramids. From the earliest year 672 AD, the leaders of the city had a twin pyramid complex built at the end of each Kaden, that is, a 20-year period. Each of these pyramids had a flat top and was built adjacent to its twin. There were stairs at the four corners. There was a platform between the twin pyramids that stretched to the north and south. Another unique city was the Mayan city of Copan, located in present-day Honduras, famous for its hieroglyphic stair temple. The 63-step pyramid-like structure is decorated with the longest known ancient Mayan inscription consisting of more than 2,000 glyphs. The glyphs in the temple tell the history of the rulers of the city. The Mayan city of Palenque, located in modern-day Mexico, is known for the extraordinary tomb and limestone statue of Pacal, one of its rulers, located in a pyramid. King Pacal was 80 years old when he died. He was buried in a tomb filled with jade along with 5 or 6 human victims, including a jade funeral mask. The sarcophagus contains scenes from the rebirth of the king and depictions of his ancestors in the form of plants. Archaeologist David Stewart, who rediscovered the tomb in 1952, said that if King Tutankhamun's tomb had an American wife, it was only the tomb of King Pacal. However, not all Maya settlements were controlled by a king or an elite member of society. Archaeologists have found evidence that no elite class was in control in the Mayan city of Seren, which was destroyed by a volcanic eruption 1,400 years ago, and the settlement was managed in the form of a commune, perhaps by local elders. The end of the Mayans. Contrary to popular belief, the Mayan civilization did not disappear. Some southern cities, such as Tikal, Copan and Palenque, were abandoned 1,100 years ago. The reasons for this event were cited as drought, deforestation, war, and climate change. In particular, drought may have played an important role in this case, as research on minerals in an underwater cave in Belize shows that there was a drought in Central America between 800 and 900. However, it is the 9th largest city of other Maya cities, such as Chichen Itza. It is worth noting that it has grown and developed over the century and continues to develop for some time. 5. Founded around the century, Chichen Itza became one of the most important cities of the Mayan world, and the balance of power shifted from the southern plains to the Yucatan Peninsula in the north. There are several ball courts in Chichen Itza, one of which is longer than modern football fields and one of the largest on the American continent. The 6-meter-high hoops in which teams try to score points are twice as long as a modern NBA hoop. Although the rules of the Mayan ball game are not well known today, the number of these fields gradually increased during the classical period. The Pyramid of the Moon. Social housing where people in a community gather. 9. It played an important role in the cities with some Mayan settlements that developed after the century. Spaniards. 16. When they came to Central America in the century, the diseases they brought with them caused a great disaster. On top of that, the Spanish began to force the Mayans to convert to Christianity, even going so far as to burn Mayan religious books. This is the reason why there are not many Maya codexes available today. Today, Mayans can be found all over the world. Millions of Mayans live in Central America and various parts of the world. The Maya are not a single society or ethnic group. English, Spanish. The Mayans speak many languages, including the Mayan languages, Yucatec, Kich, Kexi and Mopan, Spanish and English. However, the Mayans are firmly connected both to their roots and to the events of the past few centuries, notes Richard Leventhal. Mythological origins. The ancient Mayans had a long and complex creation story. This story is told in the book Popol Vuh, i.e. the Book of Times, written by the Mayans of Kais. Popol Vuh was written between the years 1554 to 1558, that is, when the region was conquered by Spanish forces. December. The stories in the book tell how the ancestral gods Tepu and Cucumats brought the world out of water and decorated it with animals and plants. Although it is more difficult to create beings with feelings compared to others, eventually humans were created, and two of these people are brothers named Hunahpu and Xbalanque. These brothers embark on various adventures. In one of these adventures they defeat the underground masters. The brothers' journey reaches a knotty point with the resurrection of their father, the Egyptian god. Ko said, "It seems that this mythical cycle is closely related to the corn yield." He states, the Mayan gods. According to the work Everyday Life in the Mayan Civilization, written by Robert Scherer, the ancient Mayans believed that everything was filled with some amount of Ka, that is, an invisible power or sacred quality called holiness. The universe of the ancient Maya consisted of three parts: Kab, earth; Kan, sky; and Xibalba, underworld consisting of water. The Mayans lived in the visible, Kab, that is, in the world realm. The celestial gods lived in the invisible, Kan, that is, in the sky realm. and the underworld gods lived in the Xibalba realm, another invisible realm. Caves, which were seen as the entrance to the underworld, had an important place in the Maya religion. According to Scherer, caves were sacred and dangerous places where the dead were buried and various rituals were performed for the ancestors. Scherer also adds that the ancient Mayans worshipped more than one god, the most important of which was Itzamnich. In more ways than one, Itzamnich was the master of the most fundamental opposing forces in the universe, for example, life and death, day and night, heaven and earth. Also, Itzamnich, the lord of the celestial world, was associated with the Milky Way and was often depicted as a snake or a two-headed reptile. Other ancient Maya gods included many gods, such as the sun god Kinichijau, the rain and storm god Chak, and the lightning god Kawil. The Mayans believed that every person had the life force. According to this belief, shedding a person's blood in a temple would transfer that person's life force to a god. In 2015, archaeologists who found an arrow temran with traces of blood on it guessed that this blood could be from someone who had participated in some kind of bloodletting ritual. When there was a shortage of water, Mayan kings and priests used to perform incense rites, which were believed to attract wind and rain. In 2017, Belizean archaeologists discovered a Mayan jewelry with 30 hieroglyphs on it. Archaeologists believe that this jewelry was used in these rituals. The Mayans also used hallucinogenic substances when they would contact spirits in the hope of finding help in the face of problems they faced. In the ancient Mayan religion, there were also stories about dangerous creatures such as the sea monster Sipak. The fossilized teeth of the extinct shark Carcharodon megalodon were also used as sacred gifts in some Mayan settlements. In addition, the research shows that the stories Sipak passes through were inspired by the fossilized remains of the extinct giant sharks mentioned. Human sacrifice. According to Scherer, only in certain cases would a human be sacrificed. For the Mayans, human sacrifice was not something that was done every day, however, it was done to bless certain events, such as the enthronement of a new ruler, the construction of a new temple or a ball field. The victims were usually chosen from prisoners of war. In Chichen Itza, the victims used to be thrown into a well after being dyed blue, which is believed to honor the god Chak. Also, near the ball field in the city, there is a sign indicating that someone was sacrificed. The image on this plate may indicate that a player from the winning or losing team was killed after the game. Writing and astronomy. Scherer notes that record-keeping is a vital part of the Mayan world, especially important in agriculture, astronomy and divination. By keeping a record of the dry and rainy seasons, the Mayans were able to determine the best time to October to harvest crops. In addition, the Mayans were creating calendars that could be used for divination by following the movements of the sky gods, sun, moon, October planets and stars. With long-term records, the Mayans were able to predict planetary cycles, for example, the phases of the moon and Venus, and even eclipses, Scherer said, he writes. With this knowledge, they understood whether the gods were in the best position to perform certain actions, such as performing rituals, enthroning kings, starting commercial voyages, or starting a war. The movements of the planet Venus seem to have played an important role in the ancient Maya religion. Two Mayan books, known as the Dresden and Grolier Codexes, contain detailed records of planetary movements. The ancient Mayans probably held great rituals associated with different phases of Venus. Notes art historian Gerardo Aldana from the University of California. The research shows that at least some of the authors of the Maya codexes were members of a special community of ritual specialists called Taj. The group conducting the research in question examined a room with frescoes with inscriptions in the Mayan settlement of Zoltan. The researchers discovered that the codexes were written in the room they were studying and that the people who wrote them were Taj. The scribes, who were trained by Mayan priests, probably came from the elite stratum, since ordinary people could not read and write. The Maya writing system was a kind of picture-syllabic writing, that is, it was a combination of picture writing, signs representing words, and syllabic writing, signs representing syllables. There were over 1,000 Maya signs, but the scribes would only use as many as 500 at a time. Today, there are still signs that have not been fully resolved or understood. Economy and power. The Maya civilization consisted of several interconnected city-states. At the elite and royal level, this connection decrees in the form of official visits, occasional victories, marriages, war or general ideological relations, notes Puramaki Brown. According to Scherer, while agriculture and foraging were at the center of everyday life when it came to the economy, the Mayans had a complex economy and a system of trade routes enough to support specialists. Although the Mayans did not have printed coins, they used different objects as money in different periods. These objects included diorite beads, cocoa beans and copper symbols. As a result, the power of kings depended on their ability to control resources. The Maya rulers controlled the production and distribution of the products they used to consolidate their prestige and power. They were also checking for non-local goods that every family needed, such as salt. Scherer, who writes, adds that the Maya monarchs managed to control a larger share of the economy over time. The Maya rulers did not rule alone, they were served by assistants and advisors, who are often found in Maya art. Scherer notes that ancient Maya workers were subject to a work tax to build palaces, temples and public structures. A ruler who was successful in war was bringing more workers under his control and strengthening their economy by tying their defeated enemies to tribute.